Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Attic. My name is Carol, and with Piedmont Trails, and you're watching the Piedmont Trails channel. We're live streaming. We're going to change history tonight. We are literally going to change history tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight's main topic is going to be about the great from updates from the Great Wagon Road project. I've got some deeds that I want to share with you guys, land deeds. I want to share a few land surveys, share with you some of the techniques that we used during the project to determine the original route of the Great Wagon Road. We also have some very surprising, interesting, fascinating, I've ran out of adjectives to use to describe the updates of what we're going to share with all of you tonight. And it is literally going to change history of what we know about the Great Wagon Road. So, with that being said, allow me a few minutes to welcome you to the live stream. I see Danny is here. He says, "Hello, Carol." Hello, Danny. And Melissa's here. She says, "Hey to everybody." Hello, Melissa. Say hi to me. Let me know that you're here. If this is the first time you've joined the live stream with Piedmont Trails, this is the attic where all of the research work comes together. To learn more about us, please visit piedmonttrails.com. That's our website. You can learn everything there is about us on the website. We do monthly podcast episodes. We do groundwork expeditions. We have several projects going on. You can learn everything on the website. Beverly's here tonight and Jay Webb is here, both saying, "Hey, Carol," and hello to both of you. I hope everyone has had a fantastic and wonderful weekend so far. And I hope you're looking forward to the week ahead. I know I am. I've got my schedule completely booked this week coming up. I'm going to have to wear my glasses a lot tonight, you guys. My eyes are tired. So bear with me if it puts off a glare on the screen. But I am going to have to wear them a lot more than I usually do. I want to ask a couple questions real quick of you guys. How many of you have found evidence that completely changed your family history from what you had originally known it to be? How many of you have found evidence that just changed your family history completely? Well, we have found evidence about this with the Great Wagon Road project, and we want to share it. We're ready to share it now. So I'm gonna stop there. And I'm gonna stick to my notes tonight. I'm not going to ramble off on them. But tonight we're going to change history, like I said. Following the journey to the past is satisfying and it's rewarding. It is for me. Um, even after 40 years of researching my family history, early settlements, colonial time period, which is my favorite, colonial migration routes, even the little smaller routes. I was just researching an older road that led to a mill here in Watauga County, not far from my house. Um, Anything like that is just fascinating to me. And you would think that after 40 some years of research, and you think, well, maybe that person would be a little tired of it and they'd find a new hobby. But with me, it's completely the opposite. I want to know more. I want to know every little detail that I can find on everything from that time period. I want to know the people, who they were, what they stood for. What did they face? What did they endure during their lifetime? Did they have a happy life? I mean, the questions go on and on. So it never ends for me. Never, never ends. So it's satisfying and it's rewarding to me. And I hope it is for all of you. And Rita's on here. She says, "Glad to be here. Usually have to watch later." Oh, Rita, you haven't been on here in a while. Welcome. I remember the names, you guys. Don't think I don't, but I do. So you would think after 40 years I'd find a new hobby, but I don't. So we're going to get started. We're going to change history. Now, most of you know already that we started the Great Wagon Road project in June of 2019. So it's going on almost 4 years this coming June. We went through COVID. We went through the pandemic. We went through all the shutdowns, and we still kept striving and kept researching. We would not give up. And now our main purpose is we're striving for the original route to be known. There's so much controversy out there. You can even just go online today and you'll see the controversy where someone claims the Great Wagon Road went through here, it went through there, and And there's not much history as far as the true history of the colonial migration routes. And it's so important to know what they are because that's the roads. If you follow the roads, you'll find the people. And that's all that basically you need to say on that. I mean, if you just follow the roads, you find the people. So our goal always has been with the Great Wagon Road Project to have it named as a National Historic Trail. Majority of us first discovered the Great Wagon Road by researching our family history, did we not? I know I did. That's when I found out. And that's when I got this book by Park Rouse Jr. How many of you have this book or you've heard of this book? I've had this book a long time. This is how I came to find out about the details of the Great Wagon Road way back in the day. Was from this book. And that's what opened my eyes to the real history of the Great Wagon Road. That's what got me started. And I wanted to find out about what family members I had that actually traveled the road. What did they experience? Or if they didn't travel the road, then what other roads did they travel? Where did they stop? What ferries did they cross? With the Great Wagon Road Project during the past almost 4 years, we have discovered tons of artifacts, over 1,000 family history and genealogy and lineages, and uncountless amount of treasures that are just priceless. Over a year ago, we stumbled across evidence that contradicted everything we thought we knew about the road south of Virginia. We did. We just came across it. We couldn't believe it. When I first came across it, I said, that is not right. And so I started digging into more evidence and more information. I went through a different route and looked through other documents. And then I found even more that supported this contradiction. We kept it quiet. And this was over a year ago. We kept it quiet. We didn't want to release it because it would literally change history. And so we didn't release it. I kept completely quiet about it. I was tempted to put some things on the website, and I said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to make sure that we're absolutely right. So we released a couple of clues and hints I did on a live stream that we did on the Piedmont Trails channel back in June of last year. And I only just released a couple of clues during that live stream. I waited to see what response I got back, and I got a ton of responses back. Most of them were very good, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I knew. That's what I always thought." And and they had additional evidence to even prove our opinion. But we didn't release any more information after that. We just only released a few clues and hints. Jim Dotson, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him or if you've ever heard of me when I was on Facebook doing live chats. I would mention him from time to time that he was currently writing a book about the Great Wagon Road Project. He's an American sports writer. He normally writes about golf. Most of his books are about golf, but he is currently writing a book about the Great Wagon Road. And he asked me this past Thursday during a phone call conversation, he said, Carol, what makes you or what drives you to dedicate so much of your time to this project? And I said, there's two things. First one is I want the road to be remembered. That's very important to me. I don't want the Great Wagon Road to ever be forgotten. I want it to be remembered. And I want to know the truth. I want to know the exact truth of the road. I want to know how it went, how it traveled, how it came about, what is its true history, what happened on the road. I want the truth. So when you take on a task like this, you can't just research like one subject or one topic of it. In other words, you have to research everything that's associated to the road in order to fully understand its route, to fully understand its changes. And the Great Wagon Road did change, to fully understand its growth. And it definitely grew. And it also definitely downsized through the years, and so on. So this is how I research everything. Even when I first got started with family genealogy, I was in it 110%. Um, If the kids needed help with homework or something when they were little, I would go, "Oh, let me do this really, really quick." Okay, as soon as I got done with that, I went right back to what I was doing. Working full time and keeping up with the house chores, and I would do that real quick, and then I'd go right back. I was constantly always going back to my research. And with family research, I wanted to know everything about them. So this type of research in the way that I did, like on the roads, colonial roads, I've always researched that way. I've always broadened out my horizons, and I would check under every stone, left no stone uncovered. I've always done it this way. To prove the information with the project, we had to first fully document the other main roads. Oh, and there's tons of them. There's tons of other main roads. And we wanted to concentrate on the ones that were in existence during 1750. Now, in North Carolina, we had to prove where the Great Wagon Road was versus the Trader's Path, where the Great Wagon Road was versus the Cape Fear Road, or the Town Fork Road, or the Yakin Road, or the Gist Road, or the Cheryl's Path, or the Rocky Ridge Road, and I could go on and on. So tonight I'm going to use the Cape Fear Road as a quick example to you guys, to show you how we kind of research and how we pinpoint exactly where these roads are. This particular road, and I'm only going to give you like 6 examples. I'm going to give you land deeds, books and pages where you can find them in the county locations. I'm going to give you specifics about who these land deeds belong to, first and last surnames, where they were located. And after we get done with this, with the Cape Fear example, then I'm going to release the historic changing changes that's going to affect our history with the Great Wagon Road. So this won't take long, but I'm also going to share a survey with you. I'm going to try to. But the Cape Fear Road traveled from Fayetteville, North Carolina to Bethabara, which is in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. It traveled approximately a distance of 125 to 130, 135 miles, and it was completed in 1754. Okay. We didn't know it at the time when we first started researching the Cape Fear Road, but it goes by several names. And if you'll remember, during the colonial period, they didn't name roads. They mainly were naming roads where they led to. So for the people that lived in the community in the Piedmont region, for the Cape Fear Road, not many of them called it the Cape Fear Road. Mainly the Moravians referred to it as the Cape Fear Road. Many people referred to it as the King's Highway. There were other people that lived in the eastern sections of North Carolina, such in Cumberland County, Fayetteville area, down in the Sandhills. They referred to it as the Yakin Road. We didn't realize that until we really started digging into the deeds and the documentation. So the Yakin Road turned out to be another name for the Cape Fear Road. And people named roads in accordance to where they traveled to. So the names that I mentioned in this segment owned property that joined the Cape Fear Road. These are people that lived or owned property right along the Cape Fear Road during this particular time period. I'm going to give you the dates of the deeds too. So the first one is William Lockerham. It's Lockerham. Deed date is September 26, 1753, in Bladen County. Deed Book 10, page 391. Lockerham is living along a branch of the Little River in Bladen County along the new constructed Cape Fear Road. His deed proves that the road promised to the Moravians in 1752 was well underway in September of the following year, in 1753. Now there's a history to that. We'll get into that. Both Nathaniel Rice and Matthew Rowan were acting as governor during this particular time. So Arthur Dobbs has not arrived in North Carolina yet. He took his little sweet time getting to North Carolina. He traveled extensively. He was visiting with people. He took his time before he got into North Carolina. It wasn't until 1754. So Nathaniel Rice is kind of taking over with some duties of the governor, and Matthew Rowan is doing the other part of it. So these two are collaborating with each other, and they're getting this road completed. And then Arthur Dobbs he finalizes it in his new laws by 1754. All right, so the next person I'm going to name is William Cole, Cole. His deed dates April the 27th, 1767. Cole's property is located near Reedy Creek in present-day Fayetteville. You can find his deed in Cumberland County on Deed Book 23, page 65. The road was completed in 1754, and by 1767, this was a major route to the Cape Fear River. Cole's deed pinpoints the location of the road in between Beaver Run Drive, this is present day, Beaver Run Drive and Brookshire Street in Fayetteville. Okay, if you got North Carolina, you can quickly pull up a North Carolina map and follow along with me. And I should have told you guys to maybe have your maps ready or handy. Okay, the next one is Archibald Baker. Here, this is our third one. We're going to do 6 of these. Archibald Baker, Baker. Deed dates August the 20th of 1820. You can find his deed in Moore County, Deed Book 115, page 152. Baker and his family were living along the road since 1786. Now, his deed doesn't date till 1820, but he's been there since 1786 that we've been able to prove. His property is located at the head of McDeeds Creek, that is McDeeds, McDeeds Creek, and it's significant in proving how the road traveled through the Southern Pines area just south of Kensington Road. That's Kensington. So now we're bringing the road from Fayetteville into Southern Pines. Okay, we're traveling west. All right, David Allison, his deed dates March 14th, 1794. You can find it in Moore County in Deed Book 87, page 86. Allison has got a deed of 2,560 acres. He borders the road along McLendon's Creek, and I'll spell it McLendons, McLendon's Creek, on the north side. This places the road just south of the Old Scotch Graveyard near Bethlehem Church Road. How many of you know where the Old Scotch Graveyard is? This proves that the road turned slightly north while still traveling in a westerly direction. Okay? Zechariah Martin, Martin. You can find his deed in Orange County, book number 12, page 6. His deed dates to January 30th, 1761. Over 300 acres along the road near Rocky River. Okay, we're getting closer. Rocky River. Here you can see how the road traveled from Allison's property to the Rocky River area. I happen to have Martin's survey. And on his survey, it shows how the road ran and where Rocky River is. This survey was actually conducted by William Churton. It dates to April 20th of 1759. Now let me show you. Let me see if I can hold this up to you guys and see if you can see it. Okay, this is north. Always pay attention when you're looking at these surveys, which direction your measurements are. Now, when you pull up this deed, this is how it looks. I think it looks like this. Yeah, it looks like that when you first pull it up. And you can see Zechariah Martin's name. But if you hold it in the north direction, you see there's a road. The dots are the road, and this is Rocky River. Okay? Prime example of a survey showing the road and the waterway. It's interesting here that the road takes a slight turn from the north to the south, and then it straightens out near the border of Martin's property. Now, keep in mind, Lake Tillery doesn't exist right now. So, Lake Tillery's dam is not even constructed till 1928. So, it's not there. So, you're not worried about crossing a major lake here. It's not there. So, let me show Colette's map. I think I got a copy of it too that shows that area. Maybe. No, I don't. Well, I can do this because on this map, and I don't know if you guys are going to be able to tell it. It shows two Cape Fear roads. It shows this as Cape Fear Road and this as Cape Fear Road. The older of the two is this one. There's two of them. And this is the newer version. The newer version went through Guilford County, and the older version came through Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, um, through Albemarle, Southern Pines, came through that area. So let's do our last for our last person who actually lived on the Cape Fear Road, and that is Jacob Ham. His last name is Ham, and his deed dates April 11th, 1784. You can find it in Rowan County, deed book 51 and page 239. Ham's survey shows his property bordering Abbott's Creek, and I quote, the old Cape Fear Road. It's unquote. It states that in the deed. Oh, and his deed dates 1784. So now we know John Collette's map dates to 1770. Jacob Ham's deed dates to 1784. And it's already referring to as the old Cape Fear Road. The survey also names Rich Fork, and we believe that Ham's property was located about a half a mile west of Turner Road, present-day Turner Road, and about 1.5 miles north of Holly Grove in Davison County. This proves the old route moving now in the direction of Bethabara, where it's turned, and Jacob Ham and his family lived approximately about 23 miles from south of the Moravian settlements. Pretty interesting, huh? A lot of details, right? Time consuming? Yeah, it is. So, why was the Cape Fear Road even constructed? And what was the reason why it was so close to the Great Wagon Road? Why didn't they just join in with it? Was there a reason for that? What was its purpose? Why is it relevant to the Great Wagon Road project? All right. Well, the length of the Cape Fear River, like I said, was about 120 to 130 miles. It would usually take a wagon back in 1750, probably 5 to 7 days, maybe a little longer to travel it. The Moravians used it a lot. Sometimes they could travel it in 4 days, depending on the weather. They used it a lot for trade. They wanted this road. And this was part of their deal in obtaining the land grants in North Carolina with Lord Granville, that this road would be constructed leading to their settlements so that they would not rely on having to go back and forth through the Great Wagon Road or the Trader's Path or later on the Carolina Road and conduct trade. The Moravians owned several ships, and they could have their ships port at Cape Fear River, and this was an easy access route for them to conduct business and trade and get items and supplies off of their ships. So that was the main purpose of the Cape Fear Road. It was part of a deal that was made from the Moravians in order to acquire the land that they received in North Carolina. Also, what was the other part of that deal was to allow the Moravians to control their own parish, which was Dobbs Parish. And they did that. It was established in 1755 and it was abolished in 1776, like all the parishes were in North Carolina. Also, the Moravians had operated their own Salem Land Company. They also, I told you about the ships, and also James Hutton, which was a British subject at the time, was pretty much the owner of all of their land grants. That it was his name that was on it. So you can see there's the Moravians. What it comes down to is this: the Moravians had a very close tie with several people who profited in large monies, who held high positions, who also held higher positions in power in England. And, there was a reference years ago when I was researching, because I have a lot of family members who are related to the Moravians. And I was so impressed by their details and record keeping and diaries, and I still am. because without them, I think a lot of our history would be lost. But I think it's also important at the same time to report the facts and the truth. And I had read somewhere where they were nearly bankrupt when they acquired the North Carolina land grants. This is entirely false. They were nowhere near bankrupt. They had several ships that they controlled. They had lots of money. And in order to settle to North Carolina was to build their reputation, to grow their church, to entice new members, to grow their community and entice trade. And they were very successful in doing that. All right. So, let me keep going. I'm going to look up and see. No comments. Y'all being quiet. Okay, so the Great Wagon Road we've heard so much controversy here in North Carolina and South Carolina about the route of the Great Wagon Road. And historians have even split the road in two, especially in South Carolina. Oh, well, here's the Great Wagon Road heading towards Lancaster. Oh, and, here we go. We've got it going over to the western side of South Carolina, too. It just split. They're both known as the Great Wagon Road. It split. And here in North Carolina, that you hear all kinds of, even books have been published about the original route. Park Rouse even gave his opinion about how it traveled through in North Carolina and South Carolina. Our goal in the project is to preserve the original route and to share the facts. So it's important to know what roads our ancestors traveled because it was part of their lives, and it brings us closer to knowing who they were. The Great Wagon Road ended in North Carolina. It ended in North Carolina. It didn't go any further. It stopped in North Carolina. It ended at the Traders Ford in Salisbury, North Carolina, just on the other side of Jersey settlement, of the Jersey Church settlement. The Traders Path continues on to the Mecklenburg County, Charlotte. Then it travels into South Carolina, travels westwardly, and into Georgia, and ends at, well, it keeps going. The Traders Path actually keeps going past Augusta, Georgia. It kept continuing west into the Alabama Territory. All right, here's the life-changing history. The Great Wagon Road crossed the Mayo River in Virginia, and it entered into Rockingham County, North Carolina. It continued in that direction, and it crossed the Dan River approximately 4 miles south of Dillard, Stokes County. It continued east of Walnut Cove in Stokes County, traveling west of Blues Creek. So in other words, it continued east of Walnut Cove, west of Blues Creek, Stokes County, in that direction. Crossed Adder Creek and Fisher's Branch near Linville Road in Forsyth County, east of Sage Garden. It continued south to Abbott's Creek and on to the Jersey Settlement and Brushy Fork Settlement in present-day Davidson County, and it ended at the Traders Ford on the Yadkin River. The land surveys and the deeds that date before 1753 have proven time and time again that this was the route of the Great Wagon Road. The Moravians petitioned new roads that altered the original route as they were seeking new settlers and new trade. The Moravians held a lot of power during the 1750s, 1760s, and before the American Revolutionary War. And they held a lot of power and influence. And they were able to direct a lot of the major routes to lead to their settlements. The Wachovia tract was anywhere between 12 and 20 miles from any nearest road outside of the Town Fork Road. That was the main reason, if you go refer to the Moravian diaries, why they needed to create a road leading from the Town Fork Road to their new site at Bethabara. So what does all of this mean for the project? Well, what it means is a brand new chapter for us. And I hope really that Tom Magnuson is watching us tonight. I really do. And if you guys get a chance, I want you to visit his website. It's at traderspath.association.org. Traderspath.association.org. We're going to continue to fine tune our data and complete our final analysis, get our presentation ready, and then we're going to be ready to approach for National Historic Trail status. That's what our goal is, because in our overall ending result, this doesn't change a thing for the Great Wagon Road. It is still by far the most popular route during this time period. Tens of thousands of people use this road. There's other factors that come into play on why this is true versus using the Trader's Path, or what others call the Fall Line Road, or the Carolina Road. The Carolina Road became a toll road. And I've explained this through my one of the other live streams. So that was the reason for the downfall of the Carolina Road. Great Wagon Road still prevails. It's still the most popular migration route during this time period for families entering into North Carolina from the middle colonies of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. So we're going to tidy up our presentation, get it all ready, dot all of our I's, cross all of our T's, get all of our D's and documentation that proves what we have just stated here tonight to be true, and to prove that the Great Wagon Road does need to be named as a National Historic Trail because of its history. So for those of you who have requested a map, and there's a lot of you that have done that, and there's a couple of you guys, I know who you are. You've been emailing me. You'll wait like about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll email me back and say, hey, Carol, how about that map for the Great Wagon Road project? So for those of you who have been emailing me about a map, it's coming. It is now going to arrive, so hang in there just a little bit longer. We will be posting the map on our website. Just keep in mind that we're the fine details, exact details of how the road traveled will change somewhat in certain areas as we fine tune our final analysis for the project in that particular area. So just hang on for a little bit longer, and we'll put a map up for my project. What we're going to also do now, the new chapter is going to consist of the original route of the Trader's Path, and uh, we're going to follow the Trader's Path where the Great Wagon Road joins it at the Trader's Ford in Salisbury, North Carolina. And we're going to trace that original route. Now, keep in mind, now this road, the Trader's Path, is the first wagon road in North Carolina. It dates to 1712. So there's a lot more history with that as compared to the Great Wagon Road, but it's not as popular. And during certain time periods, it declines in popularity, it deteriorates. There's a lot of history involved with the Trader's Path. Like I said, it does travel further past Augusta, Georgia. It travels deep into Georgia, way into Alabama territory, and goes even further than that. So it is a migration route. Um, and it does leave out of Virginia near Petersburg, near that area. So we're going to continue with that. We don't want the Trader's Path to, since it is so close to being in North Carolina, it's very important versus South Carolina. There are other colonial routes that are that I feel that are much more popular during this time frame. But in North Carolina, the Trader's Path is important. So we're going to continue with that. Okay, so that's our big news. So the Great Wagon Road, in our opinion, did not travel to the shallow ford crossing on the Yadkin River. No, it did not. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there's no questions. Y'all are being really, really quiet tonight. All right. Okay. So what's happening in May and for Piedmont Trails? We are still adding our surnames to the library. The current count is 447. We've got several hundred more to go. That's coming up soon. So people are constantly asking me, so what happens once you get all the names up on the library? We will then fill in the blanks of the important events, um, important people of what we have in our files, and other details such as dates and other things. So that will be included on the family files on the library, and that's coming up soon. Okay, we'll add in the details as we go. We are also adding our project data from the Colonial Indentured Servants Project on the website, and we're going to be adding Virginia and Pennsylvania. That will be released in May. This has been we're time consuming. We're putting all these names in alphabetical order. I felt that that was important for you guys to search through the information and maybe hopefully find a link to your family. Um, Keep in mind, please, when these names get released, keep in mind that a lot of the colonial indentured servants changed their names. And some cases, we were able to prove this as we followed their footsteps. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to try and put up some tips and techniques on the surname pages, along with all the information that we're going to share with you guys. So on the website too. So that's coming in May. Pennsylvania and Virginia are both coming in May. So the next podcast is episode number 44. We're in 4 years of this podcast and we are having a blast with it. It's so much fun. But the next one is coming out next week, and it's going to be a huge list, a lot of names of Virginia soldiers that date from 1754 to 1763. Some of these soldiers, oh, there's very little information. I was trying to find one more information on one the other day, and there's just so little out there. So we're going to share as much as I've got. I've got a lot of files pulled for these soldiers out of Virginia. So that's coming up next week. We will also have more videos and articles from the 18th century, family history, documentation, early settlements, and this is due to you guys voting on our poll. And thank you so much for doing that. You let me know what you wanted to hear more of, and that's what we're going to give you. So we're going to concentrate on the 18th century with family history, the documentation, the exact details of where they were. Okay, so that's coming up soon. Our next live stream will be May 28th at 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday, and you're still all very quiet. So I'm gonna let you guys off the hook for this one. I'm gonna let you go. So if you have any questions, um, now that we've released all of this from the Great Wagon Road, and now we know that it ended in North Carolina, it takes off maybe approximately 320 some miles off of the original route. Um, Keep in mind it does change history, but it doesn't take anything away from what the Great Wagon Road represented, what it meant to our families, of those of us who know that our family members traveled the Great Wagon Road. It's just as important as it was yesterday, as when many of you thought that it traveled to Georgia. It's just as important today. So maybe even more so in more ways than one. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, let me share this book with you guys. If you watched the Abbott's Creek Cemetery video that we posted up this week, I wanted to share this book. This is called Sticks and Stones. Um, it's by Ruth. Hang on. My eyes are just wore out today. It is by Ruth Little. This is a fascinating book about the symbols and what they stand for. Um, so if you have family members who are buried with decorative soapstone headstones, I highly recommend this book. It will give you more details of what the symbols mean and more about the people who are buried with them. Okay. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your journey to the past. And as always, God bless.